Civil rights activist Rosa Parks was born on February 4th, 1913 in Tuskegee, Alabama. Rosa Parks' childhood brought her early experiences with racial discrimination and activism for racial equality. In 1933, at the age of 19, Rosa met and married Raymond Parks, a barber and act member of the National Association for Academic of Colored People. With Raymond's support, Rosa earned her high school degree in 1933. On December 1st, 1955, after a long day of work where Rosa Parks worked at the department store, she was getting on the bus where there was a lot of white passengers. The bus was separated between non- and colored people. Rosa Parks was not sitting in the right seat, so she was arrested in violation of Chapter 6, Section 11 of the Montgomery City Code, which helped launch nationwide efforts for segregation in public facilities. Malcolm X was born Malcolm Little on May 19, 1925 in Omaha, Nebraska. He was very important because he was the most prominent and controversial black leaders during the Civil Rights era. He did a lot of things. Malcolm X self-educated himself in a prison library. As there was a lot of key events that led to the March on Washington, there was a couple people that helped a lot. One being Rosa Parks and another being Malcolm X. There was a lot of key events that helped lead up to the March on Washington today, as being Rosa Parks in the Montgomery Boys boycott, where she would not give her seatbelt on the bus. Also with Malcolm X, he was very important because he was the most prominent and controversial black leader of the Civil Rights era in the 1950s, 1960s, evoking black pride. A separate black community and violence as being self-defense would have an important role leading to the March on Washington.
Freedom took place on August 28, 1963, and was one of the largest political rallies in United States history in the name of African American rights. Over 200,000 citizens of all races attended the march. The march itself preempted regularly scheduled TV programs, and was the first movement of such size initiated and dominated by African Americans. Due to this, the march's initial nature had been wholly misperceived in advance. Many news outlets, public figures, and even the military expected there to be violence and rioting at the march. However, it turned out to be very supportive of the African American cause. Participants marched from Washington Monument and the Lincoln Memorial. The march had music and speakers playing for demonstrators. A small number of American Nazis made an appearance to counter-protest the march, but were dispersed by the police. The rest of Washington during the march was quiet, and non-participating workers stayed home. The leaders met up with the marchers after speaking with Congress, and at the end of the march, many of the leaders had given speeches based on the troubles of the modern-day life of African Americans, concluding with MLK's famous speech.
Events all led up to a key speech at the time, delivered by none other than Martin Luther King Jr. himself. The speech was given after the march, and it was given at the Lincoln Memorial. The night before the speech, the expensive sound system that was brought for the speech was sabotaged, but they managed to work with what they got. The I Have a Dream speech was only supposed to have a turnout of 100,000 people, but instead, it had almost double of that. With African Americans and whites in attendance, and MLK delivering the speech, it was inevitable that it was going to reach the people. In fact, that event was one of the main catalysts in stopping segregation, which was an amazing accomplishment at the time. The I Have a Dream speech was not just influential, but it will go down as one of the best speeches of all time, showing how there can be a peaceful protest and how that would work. In fact, the I Have a Dream speech is often looked at as one of the main examples for peaceful protesting.
When talking about a more perfect union. Although his house was bombed, he was jailed and also received numerous death threats. King was remembered for being persecuted, although he was exercising his First Amendment rights freely and encouraged his followers to do the same. Perhaps one of the greatest impacts to this day is when, in 2013, BBC broadcasted a speech titled "We Are the World," in which peace protesters from all over the globe, including the Dalai Lama and Malala Yousafzai, also known as peaceful protesters, were chosen to read excerpts from King's I Have a Dream speech in front of nearly 250 million people.
Today, as social media starts to increase daily worldwide, there is a lot of bad and wrong things about social media. One of the main reasons why social media is looked at negatively and why people are afraid to use it is because online and on social media, there are a lot of privacy concerns, and a lot of the information that you spread online can be seen by anyone in the world and not just private. Also, with social media being in most of our daily lives today, it can be very distracting, and most of the time stops us from being able to do something productive in our daily lives. As social media is very distracting, it is also very addictive and can be used to escape from boredom. On social media, personal information is sometimes required to be submitted while signing up for different programs and different things online. And there has been horror stories reported by users regarding scams, identity theft, and other invasions of other personal information. Social media can be used in a very lot of positive ways in today's societies, but even though there are a lot of good things with social media, there's a lot of negative things that can affect our daily lives.
Although social media might have its downs, it is mostly used as a force for good. For example, in the 1960s and 1970s, key events like the March on Washington or the Montgomery bus boycott wouldn't have happened without it. Social media is not only for events, but it is also used to give back to the community, such as donating and much more. Also, social media allows for people to get in touch with each other, no matter how far away they are, via Facebook or Instagram. That is a great thing to have. Also, social media is used for a force of good around the world, and it brings happiness and joy to people's lives.
At the conclusion of 2015, SmartingSites.com estimated that there was near 3.5 billion internet users, a 10% increase in the last 3 years, and that the numbers would only grow each year as technology becomes more easily available. Social media is so convenient because everyone that has the internet is able to use it. Anyone from athletes, politicians, civil rights activists, and celebrities to family and friends are able to use social media. According to the PEW Research Center, it's no surprise to find that in the U.S., the most active group of social media users is the 16 to 29-year-old group at 90% among the population, followed by 30 to 49-year-olds at 80%. The web and social media have brought us together by allowing individuals who live across the world to address current issues faced in their own countries. An example is the nonprofit organization UNICEF, who help children struggling with poverty by providing long-term humanitarian and developmental assistance. UNICEF uses social media, including popular sites such as Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, to spread awareness, post pictures, and receive donations from its combined 12.3 million followers, and allows them to repost to gain even more exposure. TechCrunch.com predicts that by the year 2020, there will be nearly 6.1 billion smartphones in circulation, which only increases the amount of social media users and helps connect even more people worldwide. Although becoming more widespread, social media has drastically changed since its origin in the late 1990s.
The methods in which news and information has spread to the community has changed and developed into many different forms. In the time around the civil rights movement, posters, newspapers, and the newly developed television all played their roles in delivering information to the public. Going through time, the way these medias have presented themselves has become more accessible and more convenient to the general public. Television became more common to the everyday household, and the rise of social networks has contributed to the connections people make. For example, in 1971, the first email was sent between two computers sitting right next to each other. This later developed to create bulletin boards in 1978. Many similar websites began developing after 1994, but the biggest growth began when Wikipedia was created in 2001. This marked the beginning of the golden age of the internet. Hundreds of new websites began in this time, and the astronomical increase of users helped to the eventual development of social networks such as Facebook, Twitter, and MySpace around 2006. Since then, there have been countless advances on social networking that still grow and advance to this very day.